Hey, how's it going, everybody? We are back. It's us against the spread. He's Doug Upstone. I'm Scott Spreitzer, and we're talking about the Dirty Dozen, week number 2 for us on this show, and we're going to talk about 7 college football games, 5 from the NFL. We do have a sexy dog of the week in college football, and we're going to tell you where the biggest Joes versus pros takes place in the NFL. And don't forget, because at the end of the show, we got money shots coming, and that would be our best bets, one from Doug Upstone, one from myself. Of the games that we're about to talk about. So I'm looking forward to that. Doug, before we jump into it, real quick note, I wanted to let everybody know about that free $60 account that's available over at DocSports.com. Basically what it is, if you're not yet a member at DocSports.com, you click on the link below the video, you get yourself set up for the free $60 account, and then you can use those free $60 on any of Doug Upstone's daily packages or any of mine. It is as simple as that, kind of an introductory to DocSports.com if you're not yet a member. And Doug, I know you got 9 plays in college and pro football combined this week. I have 7. I've got a 7-star in college, which, by the way, I wanted to mention, it is a Friday night game in college. And I rarely have a 7-star or even a 6-star in Thursday, Friday football, but I do this week. There's 3 games on Friday night. One happens to be my 7-star. And then I have a 6-star that leads the pack in the NFL this week. That goes on Sunday, but I do have a Monday night play too. So listen, we're looking to have another, big season, and we look to kick it off with a big week this week. I will say this, going into this week's card, 292 and 212, 59% in college, last 665 in NFL, 59%, and we'll look to continue going. And everybody, go check it out. I'm not going to get into it anymore because Doug has to speak too, but the top play run has been pretty phenomenal, 112 and 66. Doug, I know you got 9 plays, including a couple of top plays going this weekend.
I sure do, Scott. And before I even start with that, I just wanted to thank everybody that watched the show last week. Scott and I have done shows intermittently, over the past couple of years. And this past week was the most viewers we've ever had, doing a show. So thank you for everybody for watching. And while you're at it, why don't you subscribe to the channel? Get yourself subscribed to the Docs channel. You get pics, get videos like this, and you can also get our daily videos, what Scott puts out, that I put out, that we do during the week. And along with that, then you can subscribe to the channel, because by subscribing, then you don't have to go hunting for it. It's right there for you. And if you like what Scott and I have to say, and I know not everybody does, from that standpoint, but if you like what we have to say, give us a like. That's what that button right there is for. So give us a like and see what we can do for you. As far as big plays, yes, Scott, I got one on Saturday. It's an evening game available at the 7 o'clock start on Saturday. That's going to be a 6-unit play. And on Sunday at 1 o'clock, I have a 7-unit play, my first 7-unit play of the NFL season. Now, that's not big of a deal because it's only week 2, but nonetheless, it's my biggest play thus far of the season. So excited about that and looking forward to another week. I'll be honest, my college football season hasn't gotten off to a great start, but I really like this week's card, and the NFL 2-2 last week. So you know what? Time to giddy up and go, and get some stuff done here, Scott.
Yeah, same here. 2-2 in the NFL last week. I was very happy to be 2-2 because I turned off my phone and my TV and left the house at halftime of the Monday night game. I had the Jets. And obviously nobody has the Jets if Zach Wilson, if they knew he was going to play almost the entire game outside of 4 plays at that number. And they got the win anyway. Thank you, Josh Allen. Tip of the cap to Josh Allen for throwing those picks, baby. Keep it up, brother. Well, maybe not this week. We might have Buffalo. We'll see as we talk about these games in a little bit. But listen, anyway, having said that, there's something that we wanted to talk about. We're going to jump into 12 games. But Doug and I, and I've done this with a million other guys, as I'm sure Doug has also, what was I thinking? And that, when it comes to bettors and cappers, that can be as anything from why was I playing that game to why the heck did I not play that game? And we all do it. I did it before I was in the handicapping business when I was late teens, early 20s, sneaking into sports books and betting out here in Las Vegas. And I still do it ever since. And Doug, I'll just kick it off by saying this. We talked about the line move on the Colorado-Nebraska game last week and how, if you're a numbers guy, you're supposed to come in on the Cornhuskers there because of the big move. But we also said the great equalizer was Jeff Sims and his fumbling, bumbling, mumbling ways, interceptions, picks, fumbles, bad snaps, bad reads, all that stuff. And after the game was over, of course, it was 13-7, 6 minutes to go in the third. Never felt like Nebraska was going to win because of Sims at quarterback. And after the game, I'm like, why didn't I just go against this guy? He's in a high-pressure spot. He's probably got real low confidence right now. Did not bet Colorado, did not bet the game. Was there a game on the board that did that for you?
Well, in a different way is the Northwestern and UTEP game. Because, Northwestern, we saw them on the previous Sunday. They looked so bad against Rutgers. They couldn't move the ball. They couldn't do anything right. So the line opened up with UTEP actually at, I think it was -1.5 at Northwestern. And it's like, at the time I was thinking, gee, that line seems fishy, because a Big Ten team playing a team from Conference USA. And yeah, Northwestern looked bad, but still a Big Ten team. So, it didn't make sense to me. But then I thought, well, you know what? I'll give the benefit of the benefit of the doubt to the odds maker, I guess, in that one. So then I think the first score I saw was 24-0 Northwestern. And it was like, what am I thinking? Letting that one go. And they won 38-7. So yeah, that's mine for our little segment there. It was Northwestern with a Big Ten team going against Conference USA at home. And they ended up, I think, -1. But obviously that wasn't even close.
Well, let's jump into this week's games, and hopefully we won't have any what was I thinking on a game that we left off or a game that we lost this week. Let's talk about SEC action. LSU and Mississippi State doing a battle in Starkville, and LSU right now, as you see on your screen, folks, 9.5-point favorite, total 54.5. There was nothing to take from LSU's 70-point outburst against Grambling, obviously. What I did take from the first game that they lost, which was against Florida State on a neutral field, was that they've got the talent to beat anybody, but they've also got something going on between the years where they can lose to some good teams. And we saw that 17-14 lead at the half, total collapse in the second half, and they get whipped by the Seminoles. But your thoughts on this one? I really kind of thought, Doug, that 10 or less for me was a buy sign on the LSU Tigers this week.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. The one thing, and Mississippi State, for example, last week, they were 9-point favorites against Arizona. Never came close to covering the spread, needed overtime to win despite having a +4 differential in turnovers from that standpoint. Here's the thing I don't get, though, about Mississippi State. I know they got a new coach. I know Mike Leach, unfortunately, passed away. New coach, new system, everything else. But Will Rogers last year was one of the top passing quarterbacks. And now I think he threw just a little over 200 yards in the one game and less than 200 last week. I just think that's a big mistake. Maybe I get that's the direction they want to go, but they have a really good quarterback right now. So why not take advantage of them? LSU against Florida State, they gave up 334 yards passing. I'd like to say that I want LSU, but you know what? Brian Kelly will not be saying that he wants more cowbells this time when he goes in there, because you know what that noise sounds like. I'm gonna go with the Bulldogs in this one, more of a lean, and I think what they'll do, I think they will run the ball less. I think they'll look to take advantage of being able to throw the ball, and I'm not saying they win the game. I think they'll just slide under the number of 9.5, Scott.
I didn't like the way that defense got shredded by Arizona last week. I mean, they just got shredded, which was a little shocking. But anyway, Kansas State at Mizzou, as we kind of go with the Big 12 SEC clash here. And you see the line right there. K-State is laying 4 on the road. The total 47.5. Listen, I know you've got something to say about this game, but I also believe that this is one of your premium plays this week. Am I correct?
That is correct, Scott. It is. It's not my top premium. It's not my top play, but it definitely is a premium play. But here's what I'm looking at this game. The line opened at -5 for Kansas State, dropped to 3.5 actually this morning, and then went back up to 4 on them. And this one, I look at the numbers, and on my totals, what I come up with is in the low 50s for scores using my power numbers. Totals at 47.5. Scott, I'm going to go over on this one. My numbers back it, so I'm going to go with it.
I like Mizzou in this game getting the points, and I know they got a head coach who's on the hot seat, while the kid from Manhattan, the coach from Manhattan, is in all his glory right now for getting this program straightened out over the last couple of years. Talking about Kleinman, who's a fantastic head football coach, no doubt about it. But, last year you saw that 40-12 K-State win. It was a bad performance by Mizzou, and Brady Cook has a chance to right the ship, so to speak, at quarterback for the Tigers in this one. But mostly, I really do believe that Mizzou can keep this one close thanks to their play on defense in the trenches. That's where I think they went out in this contest. You look at K-State's O-line, their offensive line, it's a bit banged up going into this week's game. And the Tigers are excellent up front. They've got Darius Robinson. They got Niles Gaddy, a transfer from Jackson State at DE at defensive end. And I really do believe they're going to harass K-State enough to be able to put them over the top here, at least not lose by more than a field goal. It's not a premium play for me, so I don't want anybody to get excited out there. But for the show's sake, I do like Mizzou plus the points in that particular game. Interesting matchup here as we head. Well, we used to call it the horseshoe. It's no longer a horseshoe shape with the Buckeyes in Columbus, but they are laying almost 30. You see the spread there on your screen. Ohio State a 29.5-point favorite. The total 65.5 as we speak. I'm going to say this about Ryan Day. I think he's feeling a whole lot of pressure. And I'm wondering deep down if you were able to get it, and I don't blame him for not saying this out loud, but if you really got him in a private area and said, what are your serious thoughts about your football team? I really think Ryan Day would think that they're not where they were a year ago or 2 years ago, and things have slipped up a little bit on offense when you talk about what they've got. And when he came out a couple weeks before the season began and he said, I think we make too much of this rivalry with Michigan. We give it too much importance by sticking it at the last game of the season. I'm like, somebody's feeling some heat. You know, he's talking about this game should be maybe middle of the season. I'm like, are you out of your mind? I mean, if I was a Buckeye fan, I would have been ticked off at Ryan Day for saying that, let alone a Michigan fan. So listen, they're laying a lot of points. They're going up against a Western Kentucky team that plays no defense. What say you, sir?
Yeah, and this one, I mean, it's a huge number, and you look at the line's 29, and right now that's exactly how many points Ohio State is averaging. So that's kind of an interesting dichotomy, from that perspective. However, I think you're talking about, they're not where they were, and what's the biggest difference that is plain as day? Quarterback position. Okay, not to say this quarterback won't be good, but thus far, just not using the two guys. Now they've made the decision to go with the one. I think that's their problem. Now this week, though, you mentioned about Western Kentucky's defense. It isn't good, and so from that standpoint, I think if they're going to open it up, get something done, I think it'll be this week that'll be the case. And at the same time, though, I think Western Kentucky, we all know they can score. We all know they can really throw the ball. Now, there's good, Ohio State will be able to put pressure, but I still think the Hilltoppers, I should say, will get into the 20s for points. I think we're looking at Ohio State getting into at least the mid 40s for points. So, Scott, I'm going to go over 64 on this one, or over 65.5 on this one.
Trying to buy that total down. I get it. You got to do what you got to do. But and I was looking at Western Kentucky these last couple of weeks. I mean, they gave up 540 yards to South Florida. They gave up 24 first downs to Houston Baptist. Yeah, I think they have a tough time keeping Ohio State below 49 or 50 points in this game. I agree with you on that. Listen, I'm going to pass this next game and let you handle it because this is a premium play for me. Washington at Michigan State East Lansing. Washington laying 16.5. Total 55.5. About an hour before we started to do this show on Thursday, not even an hour, maybe 30 minutes, I saw about half the books popping to 17. And I know a lot of numbers people are going to back Mich State in this game with that number popping there. One thing that comes into play here is that you've got the coach who has been suspended, Mel Tucker, and all those $90 million. I think he's still got $80 million out there yet to be claimed. And, of course, he's now going to hire an attorney or has, and he's going to fire back at the Michigan State administration. But ugly scenes there. But, sometimes teams pull together and play, as one particular radio broadcaster likes to say, play above their skis. Is that going to happen this week with Sparty, or do you think Washington gets the victory by a wide margin?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this, and I've actually changed my opinion literally as of this morning on this one, because I on another show, this was the game I was assigned to talk about, and the more I thought about it, what I compare this to is like a bowl game, and like when a team has, they lose their last game, and they really weren't expected to, maybe say the conference championship. And then they maybe go to a bowl game that, that they're not going to be that excited to go to. And the train of thought is, well, you know what? They're going to be flat, and it's going to be, and that used to be true. I'm not saying it's never true anymore, but that used to be true. But what's changed to me is that if you have some time, and now granted, we're still only talking a week here, but I mean, this event happened last Sunday. So, they put another coach in place. They bring back, now just drawing a blank, the old Mark D'Antonio, the old Michigan State coach. He's back this week, okay, to help out with the team.
Sure.
And so I think they're going to rally the troops here, Scott. I really do. Now, do I think they have any chance to win the game? Absolutely not. But Washington might be a little bit flat, knowing, or anticipating something here in terms of what the players go. So I'm going to say that Michigan State covers. I'm going to even give a score, 34-24 Washington. But I'm going to take the points, 16.5, 17. Hey, man, give them to me. I'll take them on this one.
And again, that is a premium play for me, part of my 7-game package this weekend. All right, I had to talk about it. It's Northern Illinois at Nebraska. Here come the Huskies into Lincoln to take on the Huskers, and the Huskers are laying 11, total sitting at 42. You're supposed to play Nebraska here. Okay, they're at home. It's their home opener. I'm going to do this. For those growing up in Nebraska, that means black shirts. The black shirts, that defense has performed to an A level, as far as I'm concerned, Doug. They completely shut down and dismantled Minnesota's offense. They lost the game because of Jeff Sims and the offense and their turnovers and their mistakes. They hold Colorado to 13 points with 6 minutes left in the third quarter. And then, of course, we talked about it earlier. Jeff Sims and the offense just continues to shoot themselves in the foot repeatedly. And the defense is basically left out there without much support. They lose the game 36-14. Nebraska leads the nation in sacks. They had 8 last week in Boulder, Colorado. They forced Shadur Sanders into a lot of missed throws, incompletions, mistakes of his own. This Nebraska defense is good enough to be 2-0. The offense is bad enough to be where they are, which is 0-2. Northern Illinois is a sitting duck on offense because they are slow at quarterback, slow in the offensive backfield. I think the Nebraska defense will perform well, hold Northern Illinois in check. I just don't want to do what was I thinking on next week's show, back Nebraska and have them win this game by a touchdown because of turnovers and win this game in a dogfight. So I believe they are the right side, but until we see a quarterback who comes in, Doug, and it doesn't turn the ball over and make dumb mistakes, there's no way I could bet this game. I'm not taking NIU. I think their offense is going to be in trouble. I can't lay the points. Double digits with a quarterback who turns the ball over 4 times a game.
Yeah, here's something, Scott, that you do not know about me and about this game. And we actually, you made it clear that you're a Nebraska fan. And I am what I would describe as a pseudo Northern Illinois fan. Okay. I grew up in the Northern Illinois area, lived about 40 minutes from DeKalb, spent a lot of my college age years in and around the DeKalb, Illinois area. And so always had I went to a few football games and always kind of followed them and stuff like that. And, this program has been actually pretty solid for a number of years now. And the reason that is because they were able to recruit the Chicagoland area, and they got, let's just call it, Big Ten type kids that weren't quite good enough, either by height or by size or something to do with speed, but quality players. But here's the deal, though. Their coach is named Thomas Hammock. He's a former player and was a good running back there. And if you've never seen Northern Illinois' coach, and I just told you he's a running back, you would swear to God when you see him, he was a nose tackle, okay, from that standpoint. So, this team, as you mentioned, there's not a lot of speed. They have some skill, more so on defense, I think, than on offense. I think you're right. I think Nebraska is going to do enough, okay, to hold them down. As long as they don't commit 4 turnovers again, Scott, okay, I think they'll be fine. If they do that, all bets are off, but I think they'll probably come in with less. It's their home opener. Sure, Nebraska fans are going to be a little bit down, but if they get off to a good start and they don't, run into the, oh my God, here we go again scenario that they've seen the last 2 games, I think they should be fine. So I'll give the 11 with them.
Let's move to a game that draws a little bit more interest from people outside of Nebraska or DeKalb, Illinois, and that would be Tennessee and Florida doing battle, where the Volunteers are laying 6.5, total sitting at 58.5. And Doug, I'll start by saying I think this number, as far as the side is concerned, is spot on to me, to my numbers. It's what I make it. But I like the total under. I do believe that both offenses are going to have a hard time putting up a lot of points. We'll see if that comes to fruition. I'm not a Graham Mertz fan for the Gators. He just is not impressive at all. I think Tennessee will be able to hold this offense in check. And also at the same time, I don't like the reason I didn't lay the points, not only the number fit. I'm watching Tennessee against Austin Peay, and I'm not the first person to say this, but I'm watching Tennessee against Austin. They look not disenfranchised. They look disinterested. They look detached. And I don't like laying chalk with a team that recently looked like they had better things to do with their time. That means they might not be getting quite the motivation from the head coach, from the coaching staff. So for me, it's an under. I think we're going to see a lower scoring game. Your thoughts?
Yeah, when you don't beat the spread by 32 points, okay, that's not a good thing. All right. So you wonder a little bit about that. Now, the Florida faithful, though, they have to hope that they see something a lot better than what they saw at Utah when their team scored 11 points in that one. But as you mentioned, both defenses, are strong in this one. But I'm going to lean with the Gators here, and I'm in part because of history. They are 12-3 straight up at the Swamp against Tennessee. So it's a team that, at least by history, they know that they can beat Tennessee. I think that's a good thing. And additionally, home underdogs, 3.5 to 10 points, like Florida, after outgaining their last opponent by 175 or more yards, are a strong 33-6 against the spread. Scott, give me the Gators plus the 6.5 in this one. Oh, you hear me, Scott?
I got you now. Froze up there for a minute, Doug. I got you now.
No problem.
And I'm guessing because I froze up there for a second. Did you finish your analysis on?
Yes. So I'm taking the Gators on that one for sure.
All righty, and let's move on to the sexy dog of the week. It is the Cougars and the Razorbacks doing battle. Arkansas lay an 8 to BYU, total 47.5. Now, we've talked about sexy dogs. You and I spoke about one over the phone a couple of weeks ago, and that was South Alabama, and Tulane got the job done against South Al. And this isn't always, when we're talking sexy dog of the week, we're talking a dog in a negative manner more often than not, because they're so wanted by the public and all that kind of stuff that you lose value with that underdog. And this week, getting heavy action, one-sided action, BYU, people taking those points over Arkansas. And you can see that number. I've seen as low as 7.5, by the way, and as high as 8 on Thursday afternoon before we cut this. But Arky beat the Cougars last year, 52-35, hung the 50+ on them. I know they're 2-0 and they played absolutely no one so far, Doug. But I look at this BYU team, and they did shut out Sam Houston, and they did beat Southern Utah, but they only had 12 first downs. As I'm looking at my notes here, 12 first downs. 257 yards, 3.9 yards per play against Sam Houston. They only gained 46 yards on the ground against Southern Utah, just over 2 yards per carry. And, while they won the game 41-16, they only gained like 40 or 50 more yards than Southern Utah. They didn't reach 400 yards. No ground game. I don't like taking points away from home with an underdog that is a sexy underdog to the public and has no ground game. And that's what we're seeing out of the Cougars thus far.
Yeah, we don't really know much about either one of these teams, other than just some, as you're saying, some statistics against essentially teams that gives us nothing to go by. Now, BYU coming into the season, if you looked where they were supposed to finish in the Big 12, I mean, they're towards the bottom, not the worst team, but towards the bottom. That's not a good sign right off the bat in terms of what they have in terms of talent. So I'm looking at this, Scott. I have the ability to take a SEC team at home in single digits. Like I say, if it was 10 or higher, I'd probably pass on this one because I don't know enough about Arkansas either. But be able to get single digits at home against a slower team that doesn't, as you say, does not have a running game, that works for me. And the Cougars, by the way, against SEC teams, 3-12 straight up. Against the spread, that smells like a problem to me. Give me the Hogs, baby, to get the job done on Saturday.
Our money shots coming up at the end of the show. Those are our best bets from today's show, our Dirty Dozen. And also we've got little Joes versus Pros action coming up in the NFL. Before we get to the NFL, though, Doug, remind everybody what you got going this week.
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, I got 9 plays going this weekend, 5 in college and 4 in the NFL, a best bet on Saturday and a best bet on Sunday. And also having some other nice streaks going, Scott. Props, both combined, NFL and the Major League Baseball, 21-8. So on a really nice run there, up over $3,600. And hey, everybody's favorite, Canadian football, right? I mean, who doesn't love Canadian football? We should do a show about that, Scott. Oh, that's right. Nobody's listening. but 11-5 run. I think a little over $2,400 worth of profit at Docs. So things are really going well. And I'm looking at a play on Friday night, okay, to be able to likely a big play. Got a little more research after the show, but looking at a big play there. And on with the Mets winning today, a nice 48-28 run the last 6+ weeks in Major League Baseball, Scott.
Had the Mets with you today. I didn't even know you had it, but that, nice, easy win as they jumped out early and didn't give it away. So that was a nice play on the Mets, and we had it in common. Congrats. Listen, real quick, I do have the 7-game package going this week, 7-star Friday college football, 3 games. One of them happens to be a 7-star play. I've got 7 plays in all. I do have Monday Night Football. There's 2 games this week. I have one of those. And my 6-star in the NFL top play goes on Sunday. It's a 1 p.m. Eastern time game. And listen, all I can tell you is the resume is this: 665 NFL plays, 59%, 292 and 212 in college football, 59%. Last week, we were a bad beat with Texas Tech away from having a winning Saturday. We won the top play last week. We had Cal over Auburn. They were able to hang on plus the points. And so far, off to a winning run, or a winning start, I should say, with those college football big plays. And we'll look to go to, if we win these 2 big plays, we'll be 114-66 with our top play run going back to last December, I think it was. But anyway, listen, I'm going to let you talk about this game first. I did not use this as a premium play. I thought I was in this game. I'll tell you who in just a minute. I just get a feeling, since I didn't use it as a premium play, this is a candidate for me next week when it comes to the what was I thinking for not playing this game. But I'm going to get your thoughts first, Doug.
Yeah, and this one, we got 2 teams that are 0-1, and so that means somebody's going to be 0-2 in this one, so and have to dig a hole. Now, though this is the home opener for Tennessee, Chargers have the more explosive offense. We saw that last week, 34 points, great running game. You got Justin Herbert against an aging Ryan Tannehill, and this, I just don't like the situation here for Tennessee. What I'm going to do, though, I'm going to take the first half line, okay, which is Chargers -1.5. I think they'll be able to get off to a good start. They have a long-term history of beating the AFC South teams over the years for a long period of time. And teams, for example, like Tennessee, that are off 1 or more losses in the first month of the season and who closed last year with 3 or more straight losses are only 22-53 against the first half line. So, Scott, give me Tennessee -1.5 after 2 quarters. Actually, give me Tennessee. Sorry.
Chargers.
Give me the Chargers -1.5, okay, over Tennessee after 2 quarters.
I like that. I also like the Chargers for the game, which is anywhere from 2.5 to 3. If you like the Chargers, you can lay 2.5. There are books out there that have it. If you like the Titans, you don't take less than 3 because there's plenty of books with the Titans getting 3 full points there. And this might be the game, like I said, that I hit myself in the head. I could have had a V8. What was I thinking for not playing the Chargers in this game? First, real quick, I'm not going to get into the details because I've talked about it a million times for the last decade. But the West Coast, East Coast thingy is an absolute myth, one of the biggest myths in football betting that I've ever seen. You can go back 40 years. You'll see the West Coast team has been the way to go more often than not against the spread. And so you can throw that out the window. Been talking about that for a decade. As far as listen, a team like Miami can hurt the Chargers because the Chargers aren't great on defense. A player like Tyreek Hill can bust them up, no doubt about it, can get behind them in the secondary. They got Hopkins, but the problem for Tennessee is they got no offensive line. As you said, aging quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. I don't think Tennessee's going to be able to keep up with the Chargers. The Chargers haven't even got the chemistry completely together on offense yet with Kellen Moore calling the shots. When they do, holy cow. And they had plenty of chances, made some dumb moves. Guess what? Bad coach, dumb moves last week. And as far as what was going on the field, they could have easily won that football game, and they made dumb moves to cost themselves. But the Chargers from both of us, Doug says first half, I will say lay the 2.5 to 3 points with the Chargers full game. Ravens at Cincinnati. Cincinnati, as you see on your screen there, 3-point favorite. Again, this is one of those games where if you like the Bengals, plenty of threes. If you like the Ravens, plenty of 3.5. So shop, as your mama once told you, you better shop around and get the line that benefits you the most. Doug, wouldn't be the first time if Cincy loses this game that they start 0-2, first time in recent history, and then turn it around and have a great season. I will say this about Lamar Jackson, 10-1-1 against the spread as an underdog, as the quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. I think you got a couple of thoughts on this one, but I know you also got a premium play on this game.
Yes, I do. This is my 7-unit play, which is going on Sunday. But what I have to talk about is the side. I'm looking at the Ravens. No Dobbins this week. 1 or 2 offensive linemen possibly out. The secondary, 2, maybe 3 guys might not play, or if they are, they're going to be compromised. Looking at Cincinnati last week, horrific offensively. Joe Burrow, no practice, or not enough practice, I should say, and didn't play at all in the preseason. Going up against a Ravens defense that's likely to be in the top 10 at the end of the season. In this one, the total is 46.5, and I think the score is going to go under that number. I think it's going to be more defensive game, at least for a free play pick, anyways, for sure.
Yeah, I'm holding off. I like your under. And the reason I'm holding off is because of the injuries that you mentioned on one side. Cincinnati looking like they haven't had enough time to really gel yet on offense, with Burrow missing the time with the calf. And the thing about Burrow, it's reported, he's still getting the calf therapy like crazy. So yeah. I just worry that it's, again, last week, a couple of times it looked like it was bothering him during the game. So because of that, I decided to pass the side. I do like the under for the reasons you mentioned, plus the injuries that you mentioned also. Tough going against Lamar, man. 10-1-1 as an underdog against the spread for this Baltimore team. But anyway, I'm going to pass this next game. It is the Chiefs at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Chiefs laying 3.5, total sitting at 51. We saw the Chiefs bungle their way to a loss. I don't want to take too much away from Detroit. Those fans have been, they've been hurting for a long time. They've yet to make it to a Super Bowl in the 50-plus years of a Super Bowl taking place. So we got to give them credit for winning that game. At the same time, Kadarius Toney, if you don't do your Jeff Sims routine, you make a few catches that you're supposed to, and Kansas City goes on to win that football game. I did go against the Jags last week, Doug. I don't know about you. And, you had Indy who's covering and winning outright with about 5 minutes to go in the game. And then the Jaguars get 2 touchdowns and 2 extra points in a matter of 62 seconds. Then you had another shot. Anthony Richardson drives the team all the way down the field, gets down to the 5-yard line. He gets hurt, knocked from the game. Minshew comes in, no rhythm at all. He's rusty as can be. And they don't score from, I think, the 1 or 2 yard line on the last play or two. You don't get that backdoor cover. So interesting matchup this week. You got a KC team that needs a win. You got Jacksonville. Oh, maybe they're overvalued a bit. Your thoughts on this one?
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say, Scott. I do believe they are a little bit overvalued here. Now, do I think that Jacksonville's a team on the rise? Unquestionably. The offense, you can see the components coming together. You can see the defensive components coming together. We saw it in the playoff game last year. People say, well, Kansas City was beat up and Mahomes was hurt and all this and all that. Well, that's fine. But they still did the job. They went there and got the job done. They beat the Chargers the week prior. So, I think they deserve a lot of credit here. I just think it's just a little bit too much credit here with Kansas City. I've seen some threes. I've seen some 3.5. So just before, I did this earlier with the 3.5. I did see some threes beforehand. Jacksonville 5-0 as a home dog recently, but Kansas City 7-3 in away openers, coming off a shocking defeat. I'm going to trust Andy Reid to have his team prepared and be able to get the job done. I'm not saying it's going to be simple, but I think that ultimately they're going to end up winning by somewhere in the 4 to 7 point range.
This next game, I am on it. I do like the under here between the Jets and Cowboys. The Cowboys a 9-point favorite, 38.5 on that total. And we know the Jets have had the Bills' offensive number for 3 games now, going back to the start, the first meeting last year, although Josh Allen wasn't healthy in both of those games and in one of the 2 games last year. Well, he was healthy on Monday night, maybe not between the years. And I mean this relatively speaking when I say this, and I was doing a show on Wednesday night with a former lineman for the New York Giants, Rob Zateshka, who played for 5 or 6 years in the NFL. And I was saying, when I see Josh Allen, and I don't mean how he is off the field, I'm just talking about as an on-field leader. I don't think he's matured yet. I don't know if he ever will. I don't think he's matured yet as an on-field leader. He seems like, I don't know if that was you, Doug, or somebody else I was talking to in the last couple of days that was comparing some of what he does to Brett Favre. Maybe that was you on the phone. It was something. Okay. And I've talked to so many people the last 3 days doing shows, I couldn't remember. But I had mentioned in that phone call that Brett Favre always seemed to be creating and with a purpose, even with some of those underhand flips that would drive you crazy sometimes. Josh Allen almost seems like he gets into panic mode. Like when he fired the football on 2 different occasions, 50 yards downfield when nothing was there, it just bothers me when he does that kind of stuff. And he's got, 37 turnovers in his last 19 games? So anyway, we're talking about Josh Allen. We're supposed to be talking about the Jets and Cowboys, but it kind of tells you that you can throw him off his rhythm. Having said that, the Cowboys don't come in with a quarterback who scares the heck out of defenses. I'm not a Dak Prescott detractor. I think he's a legit starting quarterback. I just don't think he's top 10. And again, last week, the Cowboys went 40-0. The offense didn't do much. That was all defense. So you got Zach Wilson, mediocre. Dak Prescott, I hate to say it, but mediocre. 2 offenses that are so-so. Both need to establish the run in this game. 2 extremely tough defenses. 38.5 is a low number, but for a reason. Doug, I like the under in this one.
Yeah, I would too. The only thing that concerns me about the under is the Dallas defense. And what I mean by that, their ability to take certain situations and be able to convert them quickly into points. I mean, the one thing that is so impressive, now I know it's one game, but that Dallas defense has speed and power at all 3 levels. That was the thing that was really obvious against the Giants. And so Zach Wilson, we heard that he learned some things from Brett Favre. Well, obviously it looks like he would need more time. Brett Favre with Aaron Rodgers. He would need more time with Aaron Rodgers because he didn't look good. Okay, and there was no downfield passing offense whatsoever, except for the occasional laser shot where he just wound up and let it go. I could see the Cowboys turning him over or doing a few 3 and outs, giving the Cowboys good field position from that standpoint. That's why, even though it's a huge number, and especially with Dallas at home, because Dallas is a notoriously poor home favorite over many years, I'm looking at them. I think that they can create mistakes on the Jets side of the ball to where they force turnovers and what have you. And also like to point out that home favorites, off a win by 10 or more points over division rival that had a winning record last season are 40-14 against the spread, winning by an average of 13 points per game. This is nothing more than a lean at 9 or 9.5 points. But you know what? I'll take Dallas, Scott, in this one.
All right, let's talk. You like Dallas. I like the under 38.5. Let's talk about the Joes versus Pros this week. And there's a few games that are pretty close to being equal as far as the differential between tickets and money. But this one stands out. And it's even, we talked about it last night, a couple of the games that could potentially fit Joes versus Pros this week. This one's gotten even more Joes versus Pros, if you will. I was checking right before we started the show. And the tickets, 65% of the tickets are on the Miami Dolphins. They were sexy as hell last week. They scored 36 points, and they got a win in a 36-34 final. 65% of the tickets on the Dolphins. 68% of the money now is on the New England Patriots getting points at home. New England getting 3 at home, total 46.5. And listen, if you watched that game last week, there were plenty of chances the Chargers had. One of the points, though, about not being too high on the Chargers, even though I do like them this year, is the head coach who made another bad decision that cost them a couple bad decisions that cost them last week. Real quick note, I did find this somewhere, and I had another friend who told me about this, and I did locate it myself. Going against teams that score and allow 30 or more points in week 1 has been the way to go when it comes to week 2 in the NFL. I'm sure it doesn't happen a whole lot when you got a team in week 1 that scores 30 and gives up 30 in the same game. Listen, Miami gave up 230 plus yards on the ground. They gave up 30 first downs. I don't think they're going to get behind New England as much as they got behind the Chargers. And we know the head coach is probably going to make better decisions than the guy out there in Los Angeles. And I'm not talking about the guy who coaches the Rams, by the way. I'm talking about the Chargers head coach. So I do think I think the pros are on the right side, Doug. What say you? I like New England in this game. It's not a premium play, but if I had to play it, I'd take the points.
Yeah, and this one, I would say just overall, generally speaking, I think that is the correct answer on this one. The other thing that comes to play here, the last 4 trips that Miami has made to Foxborough, they have averaged in those games 19 points per game. I'm of the opinion that we all know, I should say, it's really hard to win 2 road games in a row. I think it's even more difficult to start the season to do that. So you have no home games yet. So then you go on the road twice. I think that's even more challenging to do. You look at the Miami run defense, which, as you just said, was just awful last week.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I mistake what you were saying there. Okay.
Yeah, but Bill Belichick, this is a different type of deflate gate. But I think they're looking to take the air out of the ball by running it, okay, and going right at Miami and trying to figure out, what they want to do and try and exploit them and the old keep them on the sidelines, keep that Miami offense on the sidelines in this one. I'm going to go, though, with another first half play on this one, Scott. And the biggest reason is because Miami could do something. If, say, New England gets tired, okay, they could 3 plays, they could go 90 yards. Okay. We've seen it over the last couple of years. So I'm going to take the New England at plus 1.5 on the first half line against Miami to get the job done. And I just like their situation better. And I think that by taking the first half, you also take away the ability of what Miami can do potentially for the entire game.
Money shot in just a second. That is our best bet from today's show for both Doug and myself. And you can see the graphic going across your screen there at the bottom of the video, talking about Doug's 9 plays. I've got 7, and we both got a couple of best bets going this week. And I'll let Doug speak for himself in just a second. 7-star for me in college, and I want to again let everybody know it's a Friday night game. 3 games. One of them is a 7-star main event for me. We've had great success with these top plays, 112 and 66. Hope to go to 114 and 66 after this weekend with 2, 1 in college, 1 in pro. Doug mentioned CFL plays earlier. The last 2.5 months, I'm 60% in the CFL, and we will be in action this weekend. And I wanted to mention real quick, because we might get this guy on the show, putting feelers out there a few weeks down the road. There was a guy when I used to do the Stardust Line radio show on Saturday nights, Stardust Racing Sportsbook, 10 to midnight every Saturday night for about 5 years in the 90s. He was a huge, huge Canadian football bettor. There were weeks when that's all he bet. And you're going to know him. He did a show about the projects in Chicago, a sitcom in the 70s, and he was the star of the show. Is that enough hints yet, or do you need me to go a little bit further?
Go ahead. Finish the job.
I'll go a little bit further. I wasn't sure, I was trying to, Chicago projects. And
I know. I'm not going to rain on your parade.
And Thelma got a lot of guys through puberty. Am I allowed to say that? Sure. By watching those shows. But anyway, Bernadette Stanis was that actress's name. And I'm talking about Jimmy J.J. Dynamite Walker, who, when he was invited to be in the Stardust contest, a lot of his plays were CFL. Everybody else was talking college and NFL and all that. So I'm going to try to get him on one of our shows down the road. We'll see if that comes to fruition. But he came on the Stardust with us a couple of times. And I got really angry at him for him the first time, or with him the first time he came on, because he did not bring Bernadette Stanis with him. I was not happy. I was like, JJ, I really don't want to look at you. He don't want to look at me either, but that's where it went. So anyway, that's what I got going this weekend is the 7 plays, the 7-star on Friday in college, 6-star in Sunday's NFL. What about you, Doug?
For the best bet or the money shot, I am going to go with the Chargers at minus 1.5 on the first half line as my best bet on the show. Along with that, again, 9-play card coming along. So we got a lot of action going there. 5 in college, 4 in the NFL. Best bet on Saturday night and Sunday afternoon, early afternoon. So ready to go, Scott, with a big, exciting weekend of football coming ahead.
It's money shot time, man. Best bet from today's show. What you got, Mr. Upstone?
Like I said, I'm going to go with the Chargers minus the 1.5 on the first half line for my top play on this show this week.
All right. Well, we're going to need them to cover the first half and the full game because that's my money shot. That's the Chargers.
Is that right?
Full
Okay.
game minus
Well, if
3.
that doesn't prove we don't talk that much ahead of time, I think that kind of answers the question right there.
Exactly. So I had no clue that you were going with the Chargers first half as your money shot. You had no clue I was going with the Chargers full game minus 3, and there you have it. Hey, listen, we got some news coming down the road about some other videos and stuff like that. So just stay tuned. Check out Doug's daily videos that he places on the Doc Sports YouTube channel. My daily shows, I do about 4 or 5 per week. Doug's usually 6 or 7 per week. And you can check out the news as we get a little bit closer to a few other things going on. And we'll save it for that. But check out the daily videos. We're going to be here at least once a week, if not more, with our Dirty Dozen and us against the spread. For Doug Upstone, I'm Scott Spreitzer. We are DocSports.com. Click on the link below the video. Be sure to subscribe. Let's put them in the win column, everybody. We'll talk to you next week. Week 3 NFL, week 2, or week 4, that is, college football. See you, everybody.